Ladies and gentlemen, Sandra Stotsky again.
I'm going to. Thank you. As it indicates, I'm talking about suitable alternatives to Common Core. Let me just pick up a little bit more on what Janie said, because I thought about the political strategies as well as the substantive issues of what you can substitute for Common Core, which then becomes a realistic problem. As Ze'ev indicated, one can opt out of the testing at any time, but then you have to pick up some other test. But there are some things different things that legislatures or citizens can do depending upon the state, and this depends on personalities and whether you have some key people in your state that you can get help from. An initiative petition is something I've thought about. It takes money, but many Western states are particularly good at initiative petitions. That way you reach everybody. You get a vote out and can reach a lot of parents. It's just that they're expensive, as I understand them. Pausing or defunding, Jane mentioned, and that is what some people are trying out. Civil disobedience is another way of phrasing what you're doing, and coming from Massachusetts, I say this is a very honorable concept, comes from Cora, and English teachers should not hesitate to encourage their students and their fellow teachers to engage in civil disobedience. This would be a perfectly good issue. You can make all kinds of rationales for this being an unjust law or unjust policy. It's not so much a law as it is a set of policies from the USED. So that can be done with teachers standing up and doing something in a department together. Always strengthen numbers. It's very hard for an individual teacher such as the one I knew in Arkansas, the only English teacher in the entire state who was willing to be identified as against Common Core. Her name is Jamie Highfill, and she teaches in Fayetteville. 2 months ago, she was told not to speak out publicly on any issues of curriculum and assessment and instruction. And so, even though she's tenured, she wants to keep her job, and she doesn't want to be given just gut work, so she's not going to be speaking up. But she does send me some information that I can use in different ways. So you have those political ways of going about it. There are some things that also a legislature could do that would help to get at the lowering of the ceiling that is taking place, and I want to frame that by saying everyone should understand that what is happening is the reduction of the academic level by about 2 grades worth at the high school level, so that you're getting college substituting for what would be the last 2 years of high school. After all, if you're getting kids ready for Algebra 2, this is what they would be taking in high school as either sophomores, juniors, or seniors, so that if you're getting, this is where the 2 years comes in, and it's easier to show in math than it is in English. The other group that needs to be mobilized in some way are your higher ed faculties, who seem to be totally out to lunch and do not understand what is happening. Engineering faculties, you must have many engineering people in this state, mining engineering. I mean, they have to understand that there will not be the same qualifications for freshmen in math as they've had them in the past. Science majors will be affected. So they have got to, maybe by a commission that's appointed by a legislature, even if the legislature doesn't defund or pause, they can ask for input and ask for their own university people. And I keep telling everybody, I don't understand why no state board of education saw fit to ask their own higher ed faculty what they thought college admission requirements should be. They needed a bureaucrat in Washington to tell them. Every state has universities and colleges. Every state in this country has good people in its engineering, science, and math faculties. Why can't they be asked, particularly those that are on the public payroll, why can't they be asked to come up with what they think are appropriate college admission requirements? That then gets superimposed on whatever Common Core does. Another thing that either a legislature or a state board of ed can do, depending on state law, is to think about two types of diplomas. One can be the minimal competencies in Common Core, and the other can be the academic diploma. So you get at the issue of how you give incentive and encouragement to make sure that there is a trigonometry course available in your high schools, because that's what's going to disappear eventually if your college readiness level is, as mathematicians have described, it either Algebra 2 Light or Algebra 1 Plus. I mean, that's the terms that they've used. So differential diplomas, like the old New York State idea where you had regent diplomas and then the regular general diploma, that would puncture a huge hole, because where Gates is going is where the whole movement was intended to go, and that is how to get most kids into college or post-secondary education and sort of bypass the high school, particularly high school graduation requirements for the high school diploma. That's the move going on right now, how to get an alignment down to where Common Core is, not an alignment up to where your college people want people coming in, or kids coming in with whatever skills. So you can get higher ed if you can figure out how to get some of them to realize that this is the rug being pulled out from underneath them. Now, we'll just briefly talk about substance. What are some alternatives to Common Core? And this responds to an initial question from this direction earlier this morning. I have authored an English Language Arts standards document that's available on my homepage at the University of Arkansas. It's also now on the web page for an organization I belong to, ALSCW, Association of Literary Scholars, Critics, and Writers. But they approved 2 months ago making this document available on their homepage. They're not indicating approval necessarily, because I didn't want to politicize it, but this organization consists of professors of literature and language at major universities around the country. And they did look at what was in the literature section, and they know that the handwriting is on the wall for literary study unless something is done to stop the flood of texts with a mission, as I call them, the, quotes, informational texts that are now coming in for 50% of the high school curriculum. I call them texts with a mission because, unfortunately, you have ed schools and others encouraging speeches that are contemporary campaign speeches, and they're very partisan, and that's coming in the name of informational text into the English class in place of the literary study that used to be done. So my English Language Arts curriculum is available. It was based on the Massachusetts standards, but it was a revision that was on the way until Common Core came along. You then have very good models in California, Indiana, to draw on, because there's no reason why you have to go back to your own older standards. Any kind of standards can be adopted. Those are all in the public field. They're all public information. They're all available. They're not copyrighted. And they're not like Achieve's new next generation science standards, which you should fight like hell to get away from, because those are, they've somehow gotten rid of almost all of high school chemistry. I mean, you've got to understand the dumbing down that is taking place. But when scientists evaluate the called the next generation science standards that Achieve has come out with, they discovered that there was almost no high school chemistry left. Now, I asked one of them why she thought they were going after high school chemistry and why had they gotten rid of it. And she said a lot of students have a problem seeing small things that are invisible. It also involves a certain amount of mathematics. Yes. This is her facetious reason, because she doesn't understand why they got rid of high school chemistry either. But she's saying if all students can't see invisible things, then therefore let's get rid of high school chemistry. This is part of the egalitarian notion, I guess, that she thinks is happening with. So that's the next generation science standards. And you will see a good review of that on the Fordham Institute's website by a group of scientists who just came out about maybe a month ago with it. So you've got standards in both math and science and English. In science, you could go to California again, or Massachusetts, because our science standards were all vetted by scientists at higher ed. But then there's the curriculum itself. And as we were talking about this earlier, there's no reason why a state could not adopt the Singapore math curriculum for K through 8. It's in English. It is available. It's certainly lighter than anything else they would have available as textbooks to use. Singapore math could be a very highly respectable and very effective mathematics curriculum. What do you do in English language arts? The best I can offer, and most of you may know this, is the core knowledge curriculum that comes out of what E.D. Hirsch has done in Virginia. That's only for K to 8. But there are some specifications. I don't know that you can do that at the state level because states cannot dictate specific works. It would have to be done at the local level. But you can also think about the Great Books program in terms of the questions they ask. And I say this because part of the problem with the new English language arts materials will be the loaded kinds of questions that are asked of the material. And the Great Books material, there's a junior Great Books and a Great Books program together. They have specialized. I took the Great Books program maybe 30 years ago, but their questions were excellent. Okay, so I'm stopping now, and teachers should have them, so we can get in the final words from our math expert. That's about it for my suggestions. And